Hello, this is John from caveofprogramming.com, and in this tutorial we're going to look at setting an icon for your application. Now there are a couple of free tools that I like to use to create images, and I'm not going to go into the usage in any detail here, but I'll just quickly mention them. One is Inkscape, which is it's a free vector drawing application. And the idea is behind vector drawing is that you can create images like this very simple icon that I've created here by building them up out of lines and shapes, and then when you export them to an actual kind of bitmap image, you can then specify the resolution of that image, which is going to be important in a minute. And another tool that I like to use is GIMP, which is really a photo editing tool, or you could use it as a paint tool, and in spite of the unlikely name, this is a very, very good image tool, which is probably the closest thing you can get to a free version of Photoshop. And at the moment it has this annoying, for Windows users, multiple kind of document type interface, but I think they're going to change that hopefully in the future. So those are two really good tools to use. And now in your application, the actual icons are stored under this resource folder, and you've got four different folders here for images corresponding to devices with different pixel densities, because of course Android can run on all kinds of devices, and some of them will have quite small screens with not that many pixels, and others will have lots of pixels. So you've got here, I think this is high density devices, low density, medium density, and extra high density. And the idea is that if you create an icon, and in this case we're going to create a launcher icon, which is the icon that you see when you click on the icon to launch your application on your phone or your device. Then you should create it in different sizes, basically, to support different applications. And if you really sort of can't be bothered, or you don't care about different size applications, then you could just create an icon for the medium pixel density, for example, and Android will use whatever graphics it can find that are kind of the nearest match for the device it's running on. If I expand this folder here, we've already got these IC launcher icons in here, which is just kind of default icons at the moment, just these very plain icons, and we're going to replace those with a slightly nicer icon. Now if you've got to create different size icons for your application, there's two really good basic approaches that you can use, and both of them are perhaps less time consuming than you might imagine. And the first thing to say is that to find the different sizes for icons that you should use, if you go to Google and search for something like icon, let's say Android icon design, and click on this icon design guidelines for Android developers in the developer.android.com, and here you can see some of the different icons that you can use. And if I click on launcher icon here and scroll down a bit, we'll see here a table of the different sizes for launcher icons corresponding to the low, medium, high and extra high density devices. And there's also from these pages a set of simple templates that you can use to design your icons around if you want, but they're just basically images of the right size. So there are two approaches that you could use really, and one is to create a image of that's much bigger than the images that you actually want to use. And what I'm talking about here, we're talking about icons in particular, but this also corresponds to other graphics that you want to use. You could create much bigger graphics than you need, and then just scale them down in something like GIMP, for example, to the size that you need for different screen densities, pixel densities. That's one approach, to have a big bitmap and scale it down, because the thing is, if you have a small bitmap and you scale it up, it'll look grainy, and if you just use the biggest bitmap for all the different folders in your application here, then it's going to be very inefficient, and your device is going to have to scale it down in order to display it. There's that approach with the big image and scale it to different sizes, and you can also just create a vector image like in this free Inkscape application, which is really just made up out of shapes and lines and things. So it's a set of instructions for creating an image in effect, and then you can export to the different sizes that you need, the different size images, without losing any kind of loss of without losing any resolution or anything like that. So let's take the low device density screen for start, which is 36 by 36 pixels. And one other thing to say is that if you look at the icon design guidelines actually on these pages, among other things, your icon should not take up the entire square of 36 by 36 or whatever. They should use the alpha channel. They should use transparency. So if you look at the image that I created earlier in GIMP, this checkerboard around the edge indicates that area is going to be transparent, and it's not taking up the entire square, which looks nicer. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. I'll go to Inkscape here, and I'm going to go to File. I'm going to export my bitmap to 36 by 36, and I'm going to select the entire page here. I want to export my entire drawing. There we go, and I'll click Browse, and I'm going to go to the Res Drawable LDPI low density folder here, and just replace this launcher icon. Click Export there. And when you add graphics in general to Eclipse, if you're, in this case I'm replacing an existing image, but if you're adding a new one, you might have to right click your project and go to refresh before they will actually appear. But now if I click on my launcher PNG now, actually it's still the old one. I'm not sure if I did something wrong. Let's just try again. So workspace note squirrel LDPI IC launcher.png, and I'm going to replace it, and I think that should be okay. And let's go back to Eclipse. Let's just do refresh just to be on the safe side. And drawable, did I click the wrong one? Okay, drawable LDPI, and there's my icon. Okay, that's better. So I'm going to repeat that for these other folders and come back in just a second. Okay, I'm back, and that just took me like a minute, so it's a bit fiddly, but it's not the huge kind of production you might imagine when you first start thinking of creating different graphics for each screen resolution. And one last thing I want to say for this tutorial, now that I've got my icons all in place here, is you'll notice that the name of the icon is set here. So I'm saying @drawable/IC_launcher, and this actually is referring to the r.java file. So if I go to that, you'll see that I've got this drawable here and an IC launcher ID there, and that actually gets picked up from these automatically generated from the stuff you add to these image folders here, and we're going to work a bit more with that in the future. But just for this tutorial, if you want to change the name of your icon and call it something else, if you just go to Android Manifest and make sure you change this ID, and before you change the ID, put a image with the right name in there, and then you should be able to click Browse and select your image here. Okay, so that's it for this tutorial, and we're going to move on shortly to deploying our application, although it's a bit primitive at the moment, so that we can see how it actually looks. So join me again next time, and until then, happy coding.